From allmediareviews.blogspot.com. Well, I'll do another one of these. I'll do Rush. So here's the Rush studio albums, Tiermakers. This is just your standard S, A, B, C, D, E. So, and these aren't in chronological order either, and it doesn't really matter to me. So, 2112. I think as much as, not S, as much as I think it's overly mentioned, it warrants its praise. It's an A. Farewell to Kings is S, although I don't like it as much as I maybe once did. I still think it's basically still a perfect record. Caress of Steel is A. I think this is a highly underrated or underappreciated record. Love the two epics on this and the two shorter songs that people know it for, Lakeside Park and Bastille Day, are great. Clockwork Angels, the last Rush album, I feel like the production is a little too hot and a lot of the songs are a little too much. The riffs are more focused on than the actual melodies. So I'm going to have to give it a C, and that might be being generous. I mean, The Garden's great. There's a lot of good songs on it. Brought Up to BU2B and Caravan. I mean, it's a fun record. It was their best of the later records, I find, in some ways. Counterparts, probably about the same place. A lot of great riffs, a lot of great just rock songs. Not as progressive, but it didn't seem to matter that much. I still enjoy it. It was the first album that Rush came out with really since I became a fan. I became a fan when Roll the Bones was like their new record, but I became a fan after Roll the Bones came out and like Ghost of a Chance was on the radio. So Fly By Night, I'd also put in the C category. A lot of great songs on that album, but I think they would do better things. But By Turn the Snow Dog, of course, Best I Can. Fly By Night, the title track, Anthem. It has a lot of great energetic songs, and they were doing some of the proggy stuff, but just they were still a blues rock band, a lot like the comparison to Led Zeppelin warranted. Hemispheres is their masterpiece. It's S tier. It's perfect. The title, the Cygnus X 1 Book 2, the Hemispheres itself is maybe still their greatest piece. So anyway, Hold Your Fire. I'm going to go B. Yeah. And this is a record that I've kind of gone back and forth with enjoying. At one point, I didn't like it quite as much as some of the other 80s records. And then I got more into it. Then I kind of went back to it, like back on it a little bit. And then I guess I'd say in the last maybe decade or so, I've come back to feel like in some ways they perfected the 80s synth sound the best on this record. That being said, the song, I think it's Mission. Mission is the one that frequently gets mentioned. There's a couple tracks at the end I'm not as crazy about, but I know Taishan is a sort of a meme or a punchline. I don't mind Taishan. I think it's High Water, is it? I think it's High Water. Yeah, High Water, Open Water. But there's a lot. I mean, Open Secrets. Speaking of the word open, Lock and Key, Force 10, Time Stand Still. Even got a little bit of radio play with Amy Mann. There's a lot of deeper tracks on this record that I love. Moving Pictures. It's so tough sometimes because I guess I'm going to give it an A tier. It's been the radio, like Tom Sawyer and Limelight, and even YYZ to an extent, or YYZ, have gotten so much mention, so much over discussed and analyzed and played to an extent. They've become almost cliched. Now, Red Barchetta, I love that song, and I haven't worn out on that at all. And most of the second side, Witch Hunt, I can sort of take or leave. I've always liked. I'm going to give it an A tier, but I mean, people are saying I'm selling it short. Permanent Waves is S tier. The more I think about that record, that is maybe their best combination of being accessible and being progressive at the same time. Natural Science is an absolute progressive metal masterpiece. It's like 10 minutes. The composition is perfect. Different Strings is just unbelievably great. Not Entre Nous. Of course, Jacob's Ladder. People love Jacob. I love Jacob's Ladder too, although I don't think it's as good as some of the other songs on this record, but it's still a great piece. And the radio songs on here, Free Will and Spirit of Radio, I'm not quite as burnt out on. Although, if there's any criticism of this album, it would be that. So, Grace Under Pressure, I love this record. I'm going A tier on this. So many good songs. After Image, get goosebumps. Between the Wheels, Kid Gloves, Distant Early Warning, Red Sector A. I love this record. Body Electric, iconic drum fill, snare part. Power Windows, I'm gonna go B. Middletown Dreams is one of my top 10, top 5 songs they've ever done. I love a lot of this album. Marathon, I think, is on this album, and I felt like the Rush fans have overrated that track. I like it, but I don't love it as much as some people. But Big Money, this has also Emotion Detector, which is an underrated track. It has a lot of songs I enjoy, but I feel like a few years ago I was a little turned off on how much the synths, the textures of the synths, and how much they use it. What's the song about the geology? Against the run of the mill. That's another one. I can't think of the name of the song, but that's another one of. I mean, it's filled with great songs. Presto, A tier, easily. Even though there's a couple tracks I'm not as into, like Superconductor and but I mean, there's so many good songs. The Pass is hugely sad. Chain Lightning. Anagram for Mongo, the Warpaint, the title track, Available Light is a fan favorite. It is great. Red Tide is the one that they talk a little. They quote like Shakespeare in that. Neil liked to reference Shakespeare a lot, but the segue, the outro on that song is just, I get goosebumps every time I hear it. This is not a false alarm. This is not a test. Roll the Bones. I'm going to go D, as much as that pains me. Well, by comparison, Yeah, I mean, I think it's... Well, alright, I'll go C. This best songs are very good, including The Big Will and Heresy. Love the drum part and this, like, the emotion in Getty's vocals on Heresy. Ghost of a Chance was a great track. Where's My Thing? The weaker tracks, though, Face Up and Neurotica, I don't really have a strong desire to hear. I mean, I haven't heard them in a long time, but I never got into them. So, the self-titled Rush album, I think is a C. For what it is, it's nice. There aren't any bad songs, any songs I'm repulsed by. It's blues rock. Here Again. Finding My Way and Working Man is known best for those two songs. But it's just it has its limitations, I guess you could say. In the Mood, a little bit corny in sense in the lyrics, but, that's with John Rutsey, of course. They were a blues rock band. They really weren't doing prog. They were heavy at times, but Signals, I'm going A tier. The best moments on Signals, like Analog Kid, Countdown, Digital Man, the bass line's fantastic. Of course, Subdivisions. I've heard it a million times, of course, but it hasn't been overplayed, and it just I have an emotion. I get goosebumps from that song. Chemistry, I actually think is a pretty decent song. People don't like that song. The Weapon isn't bad. There's just maybe one or two tracks that have moments that are just kind of to make it feel like it's over the top and just like fantastic. But I actually have the SACD version of this album on CD, and so I kind of see that as sort of an iconic. It followed Moving Pictures, their most iconic, but anyway. Snakes and Arrows, I'm going D. It's not terrible, but I really only like 3 tracks on it. The Main Monkey Business, Far Cry, and Malignant Narcissism. The main vocal tracks, the songs that have vocals, other than the Far Cry, I just felt like they fell short with them. Getty's voice didn't sound great. The vocal melodies aren't great, and I don't know. I haven't listened to it in 15 years, so not around the time it came out. But I've always felt people overrated it. Test for Echo, I'll go D because it still has a few songs I like. This album has probably aged the poorest among all the Rush albums. Totem, Driven is nice. There's still a few decent songs on it, but Dog Years, some of the lyrics are a little corny, and it was a step down from. It was almost like Roll the Bones, but Roll the Bones had at least a few banger tracks on it. Anyway, even though that was like the peak of my Rush fandom when I saw them on this tour. So, and they did all of 2112 at that, including the Dream section. And Vapor Trails, I've grown to like it, but I can't in good conscience put it any higher than a C. Although it has, like, you know, Ghost Ride, several tracks that rock, you know, like, is it Secret Garden, Secret something, It, you know, the thing is, got marred by poor production, and then I bought the remix version, but I never listened to it. But it was supposed to come back after the tragedies that Neil Peart went through. So it you know, and I grew to appreciate it, and the songs, hearing the songs played live more, I grew to appreciate it more. So that's why I think it's better than those two albums in the D tier. I mean, again, I don't have any below that, because I mean, even Rush. Even if it's a Rush album, there's still going to be good music and good things about it, just because I love Rush and I owe so much to them. So, I mean, this is how it works. I mean, I think I look at them as them being very consistent. They had this run from Crest of Steel all the way through Presto, where it's like every record, you know, they could flip flop. I mean, or by my favorite, but where from beginning to end, every song basically I enjoy to love and look forward to when I hear new things in, and the songwriting quality is just fantastic from that run, whether it be being the more progressive stuff, the more keyboard-oriented stuff. I don't really look at their music and their albums that way. I look at the songs and hearing the music if I like the music and how the album is from beginning to end. And, you know, that's why it turns out, you know, those albums are my favorites. So anyway, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.